Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Therefore, no current or prospective client should assume that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, including the investments and/or investment strategies recommended and/or purchased by advisor, or product made reference to directly or indirectly, will be profitable. Different types of investment involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment will either be suitable or profitable for a client's investment portfolio. No client or prospective client should assume that any information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor or other investment professional.
Welcome to the Bullington Capital Report, hosted by Bill Bullington. For the next hour, you'll receive information on current market conditions and trends that could affect your financial future. If you have a question, you can participate in today's program by calling 216-901-0945. That's 216-901-0WHK. You can also reach Bill by going to his website, bullingtoncapital.com. And now, here's Bill Bullington.
Well, good to be back. And I'm hearing something. Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm hearing my own computer. I'm hearing this noise, and I'm looking around like, where is that coming from? It's actually coming from my own laptop. Anyway, if you'd like to, by the way, if you'd like to call us, 216-901-0945. My name is Bill Bullington, like the man said. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon on 1420. Been here for an enormously long time. It's mind-boggling when I look back and I think about it and all the changes I've seen since I first started doing the radio program. It's pretty amazing. So if you would, if there's anything you hear on this program, you can always go to my website and reach out. We'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can. And I feel bad. I've been bombarded last few weeks, actually, and it's been busier in the last few weeks than it had been, prior to that, when the pandemic first hit. So kind of amazing, but we will get back to you. We'll get back to everybody as soon as we possibly can. And we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. There's a guaranteed income tool that's available. We'll be talking about it a little bit later in today's show. Basically, you can put your age and how much you invest in there, and it'll show you what your guaranteed income is. It's significantly larger than what you'd get in CDs, so I think that's good. And you have to understand that when someone says guaranteed, it's the guarantee is only as strong as the underlying institution that's making the guarantee. So you got to keep that in mind. Don't want to get in trouble over that because government. By the way, government bonds are guaranteed. Right now, they're guaranteed to produce less than 1% a year in interest. But it's still guaranteed. And wow, I really did not think that we would ever see this. I mean, even after the Great Depression, interest rates only got down to like 1 or 2%. And if my memory serves me correctly, and I actually suspicion it was 2%. So interest rates are actually lower than they were after the Great Depression or during the Great Depression. So that is mind-boggling. And that's a situation that, I guess in the realm of all possibilities, all things are possible. Okay. Many things are not probable. Like I can tell you one of the things that's not probable are the Browns going undefeated next year or whenever they start playing again. That's not probable, okay, because very, 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 very few teams in any sport ever make it through an entire season, especially a professional season, without losing at least once. Okay, so when I was saying that, I'm looking at the chances of interest rates on CDs and money market accounts, things that people generally look to as the safest or regard as the safest anyway. There's a very low probability that those get up very high anytime real soon. And so in that light, I'm looking at other sources of guaranteed income. And there have been some recent developments, and this is what's really kind of crazy. There are an enormous number of annuities and types of annuities. And I don't think a lot of people understand that your pension, it's actually how an annuity works. Your pension and annuities are nearly identical. When you have a pension, whether it's federal government, local state government, a company, it's not very common in companies anymore. There's basically it works just like an annuity. And oftentimes companies will make annuities available inside their retirement plans now, because what you're really doing is you're shifting risk. Now, some people, saying annuities makes some people's skin crawl. It did mine for a long time, because there weren't some viable products out there that I thought were in the client's best interest. And yeah, that's why I stopped using them. But I'm telling you, today I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And they're doing, they're new products for a new day. So it's not it's not the annuities from 2 years ago. That's how much they've changed. And it's kind of a big deal. You hear a lot of people talking about them, and a lot of people marketing products. So if you want information from us, we're glad to provide it. And by the way, for some people, it's not the right thing. That's actually part of my job as an investment advisor, is to take a look at all the options that you have, give you, explain what they are, and let you choose. If you ask me what I would do, I'll tell you. If I were in your position, this is what I would be doing. But ultimately, when you work with us, you work with Bullington Capital, it's your money. We work for you. We don't work for the insurance company. We don't work for the brokerage firm. We don't work for the mutual fund company. We work for you. And we try to go out and find the best products for our clients that would suit their needs, and that's how we roll. So anyway, there's a website that you can actually go to kind of explore it. I kind of hesitate to give it out, but then I thought about it, and I'll just give it out anyway, because a lot of people may not understand how to use it. But if you want to give my office a shout, give us a shout, just go to email, go to my website, bullingtoncapital.com, say, hey, could you send me the link to that site, and I'll be glad to send it to you. Okay. You can go to the site, you can put your age in there, you can put the amount of income you'd like to receive and at what age, or you can put your age in there and the amount of assets that you're looking at to see how much income you could generate off of that. And it's pretty good. I think it's very simple. Well, actually, after saying I've been doing this for 30 years, of course it's simple. But so if you get hung up on something like that, feel free to call me. And when I get, I forgot this week to try to get permission to talk about the website's address. So I really at this point it's got to be a response to a question. Just go to my website and say, hey, you talked about that website, and I know there was one that I did not get to this week. So I will do that before Monday. And you can go in there and take a look at it. And then if you still have questions, feel free to give us a call. We're going to be using that as an option. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're looking at bonds, and the interest rates of bonds are so low. It's unbelievable how low they are. I really did not anticipate this. I thought that interest rates, I knew that they would go low. And somebody called in back in 2008. And I remember this vividly because he was so upset when I said interest rates were probably dropping a lot. And he didn't want to believe it. That's what you get a lot. And I know if you're a human being and you've lived for the past 30 years, you've experienced this in your own lifetime. Somebody that denies the truth because it's not what they want to hear, and they call you a bad person, might call you some bad names. And wow! And by the way, I had no idea that it would last this long. This recovery was one of the slowest recoveries in history. That's why they keep saying, "Well, this is the longest recovery." Yeah, because you're running at a snail's pace. That was so nothing ever repeats exactly the same way. That's just how life is. So anyway, we got interest rates this low. Could they go negative? Yep, they probably could. Is it probable? I think it's doubtful, but hey, I thought it would be doubtful that anybody would go negative. And there are several really big countries with huge worldwide economies that have negative interest rates. They're literally charging people to hold their money. So could that happen here? It could. Do I think it's probable? Not really. Do I think it's possible? Yeah, I do. I don't think it's probable. But anyway, it's nice to have. And by the way, when you have a tool like this, when you have a tool where you can put some of your money in something that's got a guarantee on it, that means some of the other money that you have, you can actually take a little bit more risk with. And if you've had bonds in your portfolio over the past 5 to 10 years, bonds have been a huge drag on that. There was a small time period where it was pretty good when the rates were slightly higher and the interest rates started going down. But that's been over for over 5 years. In the last 5 years, it has not been a pretty picture. So if you've had 20 or 30% or 40% of your money in bonds, your portfolio, you're probably not real happy with what you've seen there. And but the only alternative was to, if you put all your money in stocks, you risk going down 50%. How many people can stand to do that? Or want to do that? Most people don't. Heck, I don't. That's why I've got about 30% of my money in bonds. And I'm going over to the guaranteed side. I'm going to invest in the same product I'm talking about here. Just filled out my application, finished it on Friday. And I'm going to do 30%. And I think that's a good amount, a really good amount. So the other 70% I'm going to take, and I'm going to invest in things like the semiconductor fund model that I have, like the healthcare model that I have, like the Department of Labor. Actually, I think I've got one I like a little bit better than that. We're going to make a slight adjustment this summer, near the fall, in our bond portfolio. It's going to become much simpler, and it's going to try to keep us out of the way, out of harm's way, to the best of our ability. Okay. So, and I'm also going to simplify the stock portion. Okay. So I'm trying to get down to where maybe I've got a total of 7 or 8 funds that cover all the bases. Put that together, and then you've got a guaranteed amount in there, and I think now you're cooking with gas as far as I'm concerned. And so the whole thing is about managing risk. By the way, that's really what investing should be, is managing the risk. I get a lot of people who just want to take risk because they're focused on what the potential prize is. That can be really a horrible teacher. Because when you're just seeking risks to seek out the maximum returns without paying attention to the amount of risk you're taking, inevitably, sooner or later, what goes around comes around, and when that comes around, you're not going to want to be around. When you get a big drop in a market, and it brings everything down with it, kind of like it did earlier this year, I get people asking me, do you think that's going to happen again? Do you think it's going to happen again? Well, at some point in time, yeah, because that's what stocks do. Stocks go up and stocks go down. If anybody could ever guess if you were even within 4 or 5%, I can show you how to if you can guarantee me that you can get within 4 or 5% of where the market's going to be next year. You got to guarantee this, by the way. I'm going to show you a way to take an investment and make 10 times your money. Okay? We're going to buy out of the money options on stock futures. So all you have to do is get me to within 5% of where it's going to be a year from now. Actually, more like 1 or 2%. But so if somebody could actually do that, don't you think there would be a whole bunch of Warren Buffetts running around? That's right. That's how hard that is. And I get a lot of people now really worried about what's going to happen over the next few months. I'm thinking, wow, They're always worried. People are always worried because the S&P 500 has rebounded quite a bit. A lot of things are back almost, they're within 10% or so of where they were before everything hit the dirt. Now they're thinking, well, this might happen again. There might be a second. There may be, but there may not. And I don't think anybody ever really knows. I know they don't know. Not for sure, because if they did, first of all, they probably wouldn't be talking about it. They'd be busy setting up their portfolio to take advantage of it. So, they really don't want to talk about it because when they are wrong, and most are going to be wrong most of the time, that try to predict with a high degree of accuracy, then when it turns out that they're not right, nobody wants to talk about it. You don't hear from those people. So, I don't care what those ads on Facebook say. The single stock portfolio, are you kidding me? You know how many times I've seen that? Somebody made an enormous amount of money on one or two stocks, and then they dropped 70 or 80% and did not come back. Okay. And I'm not talking about, penny stocks. I'm talking about big companies. Microsoft taking a 17-year, 75% dip. 17 years from peak to trough, that thing was down over 75%. And it took 17 years, actually it's about 14 years from the bottom, because the first 2.5 years it was kept dropping. That's fun, isn't it? Watching it continue to go down 30 months in a row. So what's really more fun is avoiding that. And that's what happens if you have single stocks. So, I feel really bad too. I really wanted to, going forward, I want to try to focus on just the positive stuff. I pay attention to the negative stuff. I'm going to plan for it. And that's how you handle it. You know it's out there. You know that one of these days, the market's going to correct again. That's just the nature of the beast. You also should know that you can't predict with a high level of accuracy. And you really just need to pay attention to how much risk you're taking right now and just manage that risk. What am I talking about when I say that? Well, you should only have invested in stocks whatever you could afford to see cut in half or more. So if you've got more than 50% of your money in stocks, and you can't, you would be awake at night if your portfolio was down by 25%, cut back on your stocks. We'll talk more about this topic and a bunch of others as soon as we come back from these commercial messages. You're listening to Bill Bullington right here on 1420. Stay tuned. And we're back. Some very patriotic music there. Sounds pretty good. By the way, anybody that's ever served in the armed forces, I know everybody says this, but really, thanks for your service. It's an unbelievable big deal. These guys take their lives and willing to sacrifice them for our country. That just blows me away. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about. Don't get old. I'm not that old. Not yet anyway. But I hope to be one day. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to try to just keep managing the amount of risk I'm taking. And that's, that is so much easier, by the way, when you're investing and you want to concentrate on something. Most people try to concentrate on the stocks that they're going to pick, hoping that they're going to go up. Hope is a bad strategy. Hope is a really bad strategy. If you're managing the amount of risk you're taking, that is 95% of what your experience is going to be. The other 5% is going to be luck, which, when you hope and you get lucky, great. I've seen an awful lot of really lucky people. I've never seen anybody go through their entire lives maintaining that luck forever. And that's kind of spooky. I can't tell you how many people over the past 30 years. And by the way, every time I say this, I know of at least 10 people who think I'm talking specifically about them. No. I've talked to dozens of people who made an investment, got really lucky. The stock went way up further than it should have, convinced them that it was just going to stay that way forever. And they held on to it, and it came way, 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 way back down. And basically nearly ruined their financial lives, which has a big impact on the rest of your life. So it's I mean, one of these days I should put that down in a book. I'm not sure who would want to read it, but the bottom line is you got to manage the risk. That's the whole idea behind diversification. That's the whole idea. And to have more than 5 to 10% of your money, 5%, that's typically my limit. I'll invest around 5% in a stock. That stock becomes more than 20% of my portfolio. By the way, I actually start cutting back. I'll keep it as long as it doesn't go much beyond that. And but I'm going to cut back, and there's going to be a point where the stock is overpriced, and I'm going to be out. And oftentimes the stock will keep right on running until it doesn't. And then not knowing where it's going to end because you didn't know where it was going to peak, that's just that is so tough. It is so much easier to say, look, especially today, I like this particular industry, so maybe I'll overweight that a little bit, kind of like I do with the semiconductors and what I'm doing with healthcare right now. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I got to tell you, I did this with a lot of times, but one of the worst experiences I had, and I'm one of the few guys I know that will talk about his worst experiences who's actually looking to help you manage your money. I think it's important, though, because Warren Buffett laughs about it all the time. The mistakes that he's made over the years. You got to develop a sense of humor if you're going to be a good investor. And a few years ago, I just master limited partnerships for natural gas. I mean, it's crazy, and how poorly those things have done after the first 18 months when they shot the lights out. So anyway, but it didn't kill my investment portfolio. It hurt it, didn't kill it. And now since I've started adding the semiconductors back to it, guess what? That gap has closed significantly. And the fact that I actually increased my equity exposure, that also helped. The fact that I added to it because I'm still working, that helped. So those are the types of things you got to think about. If you're going to overweight something, you're going to put a lot of money in one thing. Don't put it in an individual stock. Just pick a sector. That way, if it doesn't work out that well, it's not going to be the end of your investing career, and you won't have to go back to work in your 80s. If it doesn't work out that well, oh well. You gave it a shot, and that's fine. You're not going to succeed every single time. And one of the other things I think is much improved over the way it's been in the past. You've got an idea about an industry. One of the worst feelings is being right about the industry and picking the lone stock that goes down. All the other stocks do well except for yours. That is the worst feeling in the world. When the market goes down and everybody's down, you're all down. No big deal. When you've got one stock and it's down big and all the other stocks in that sector are up, that is a bad feeling. You want to talk about feeling alone. So if you want to feel better or give yourself a better chance, you can do this today. In fact, a lot of this stuff hasn't even existed up until about 5 years ago. Now, to me, 5 years is nothing. To a college senior, 5 years is a lifetime. But anybody that's, above the age of 50, if you look at 5 years, you go, wow, yeah, that's not much time at all. So within the last 5 years, almost every category that you can invest in has a representative, a fund that you can invest in that does a fairly decent job. You couldn't say that prior to that time period, I promise you. It used to be incredibly frustrating. You were told that you should be able to invest into the efficient frontier and all these categories, many of which did not exist. And they're holding you out and saying you're a bad investment advisor because you can't match the return. Well, nobody could match the returns on those because it didn't exist. You couldn't invest in them. They just love to drive you nuts. I'm telling you, the best con artists in the world are in my industry, by far. They make everybody else look like children. Men against boys. And I'm telling you, I've seen some really good stories out there over the years. And when you hear something that sounds like really, really, really too good to be true, it probably is. So anyway, in fact, a lot of people think that these new products that they're coming out with, and this is just one, this is within the industry. The products are improving. We were talking about earlier, when you want guaranteed income, the tools that you can use now, I mean, a lot of these tools didn't exist up until a few years ago. The ones I'm using are brand new. So they're slightly different. And by the way, I'm pretty sure they'll probably be changing those over time. Here's the whole idea behind a guaranteed income. So let's say the stock market's average return over the past 20 years is somewhere between 7 and 8%. You look over the past 10 years, because you're coming up off of a bottom, your 2010 market was nowhere near as high as it was 2 years before that. When you measure that, the returns look awesome. You're talking about low teens. That's amazing. Yeah, but okay, you forgot to put in that 2 years before it where the market was down 57%, where the S&P was down 57%. And if you go back to March of 2000, returns come in significantly lower. So the time period that you invest in, or that you retire in, or the time period that's your life expectancy, let's say you're approaching your 60s, that's going to have that could have an enormous impact on your ability to retire and your lifestyle. Now, this is why these products actually came into being, because they recognize that the fastest growing segment of the population are people that are 60 and over. And you know what a lot of those people like to do? They like to retire. They would love to retire. I'm sure most of them would love to retire. So they're bringing these products out that they used to have. You know, people used to have access to pensions. Those pensions are disappearing, have been for years now. So a lot of companies don't offer pensions anymore. They offer a plan where you can put some of your money away, save it for retirement, and sometimes they'll match, and sometimes they even make a contribution. But the old pensions, where they're going to guarantee an income, gone away. So a group of these insurance companies got together. By the way, the insurance companies are the ones that invented pensions. They're the ones that invented them. Years and years and years and years. I mean, actually over 100 years ago. Well over 100 years ago, now that I think about it. So they've come out and they've formed a coalition, and they said, look, you know, people are getting up into age. There's a big need. There's a big demand. We should develop some products for this. And this is the result of that. This is what's coming out now. And, you know, I really like it, because back to what I was talking about earlier, if the long-term average of the stock market is going to be, let's say it's somewhere between 8 and 10% a year, which you go back to, depending on the time period, that's, you know, over 20-year time periods, that's a pretty good number to use. That's a very good number to use. The problem is, when you're 70 years old, you may not have a 20-year life expectancy. Does that make sense? When you're 65, you might not have a 20-year life expectancy. And there's this thing called an order of events. If at 65 you happen to retire, you're counting on an 8 to 10% return on your investments, and you're 100% invested in stock because you had to be in order to get that. Okay. And then the market goes down 50%. Guess what? You're probably not going to live long enough to make that money back, because you're taking money out of it. That's a problem. That's a new risk that's brought to most people's attention. Longevity risk. What happens if I don't have enough time to recover? That's a problem. So here's where an institution or a corporation has a big advantage. The corporation is not a real person. The corporation is going to continue to go on, run by new people who are taught by the people that already came before them, and they go on into infinity. So the reality is, as long as they keep doing good business, they'll be here 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now. They can afford to wait it out. So they'll manage that money. They charge a fee for that, no doubt. But they'll manage that money and they'll make a guarantee because they can be here. They don't have longevity risk. You do. You're transferring your risk to those companies. They're accepting the risk for a management fee. And that's how that works. And I got to tell you, it's an awesome thing. I look at how much life insurance I get and how cheap it is for what I'm getting. I'm like, wow, how do you do that? Yeah, well, I know how they do it. The actuaries are actually calculating the numbers, and as long as they do a really good job, and at some point in time, something happens to me, kids are taken care of, whatever left there at that point in time just transfers right onto them. Actually, it'll go into a trust. That's another story. We'll actually have to get some people in here to talk about that one of these days. Also going to have to talk about the what to do, how to protect yourself against medical expenses. Medical expenses are huge. 50% of all bankruptcies, at least now, okay, this may be fake news. I tried to research this to the best of my ability, so I'm giving you a disclaimer here. What I read may have been wrong. What I'm about to tell you might not be exactly right, but it makes sense to me. 50% of bankruptcies in the country are caused by medical expenses. I can certainly understand that. What I was more surprised by was that 50% of those cases were from people who had health insurance. It was the insurance companies saying, no, you didn't get permission for that. We're not paying for it. That's on you. So they paid their deductibles and co-payments, but the insurance companies said that wasn't covered under our plan. Sorry, that's on you. That nobody is talking about, by the way. And that's a major league problem, especially when you're looking at retirement. Because you know what happens as you get older? I know I'm sitting here and I'm squirming because, like, if you ever come to my office, you'll see me moving around a lot. See, I'm getting older. And all those injuries I had playing football back in college coming back to haunt me. I should think those old timers were just making it up. Now I know better. So anyway, as you get older, you start going more and more to the doctor. Do you know what I think Medicare was the second largest budget item in the federal budget? I'm pretty sure. I know it's in the top 5, but I think it's either number 1 or 2. I'll have to look that up too. But anyway, so as you get closer to retirement, you want to make sure that you've got a guaranteed income. You need stuff that you can kind of try to rely on. In the best of all worlds, the federal government would actually start an insurance agency, and hopefully, actually they have one. It's called Social Security. And by the way, it does work very well. And was it underfunded? The only reason that Social Security is short on funds is because Congress kept allowing other departments to go in and take out money and borrow money. And you know what? When they borrow money on an intragovernmental basis, they don't have to pay any interest. What's up with that? I would put interest on it, but that would just be robbing Peter to pay Paul too. But anyway, a large part of the national debt, by the way, is non-interest bearing. It's money that other departments borrowed from the Social Security Administration. So you hear a lot of stuff out there. I mean, it's amazing. And a big part of what I do during my days, people call in, hey, can you look into this for me? You're a client. So yeah, I'll look into it. I'll get right back to you. And I'll look it up. And I would say probably 3 out of 4 things that I'm hearing from clients that I take the time to look up end up not being the way that they were actually presented to them. So maybe only half. I don't know. But I hear the music. That means I got to take a quick commercial break. Listen to Bill Bullington right here on 1420. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. And we're back. Hey, if you've heard something that you want more information on, feel free to go to my website, bullingtoncapital.com, and fill out a request or contact information form. I'll try to get it back to you as quickly as possible. And I do apologize. I know there's one in particular. It's taken me about 5 days to get back to because I was waiting on something before I sent that out. So anyway, I will be getting that on a Monday, and I should be good to go. And I wanted to take this last 15-minute segment. You know, we talk about managing risk all the time. And I go from, when I was younger, I did the most aggressive type of investing that you can do, but it was aggressive under control. That's why I'm still here. Because you have to control the amount of risk you're taking. And if you don't, it will control you, and you will not like how you get treated. So anyway, there's a website called Look Out for the Bull, and I really like it a lot. There was a company that came up on there that I bought some shares in, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It's up a little bit, which is fine. But this is one of those companies where I think you can probably, I don't know that you have to put a trailing stop on it. Just don't put more than 2 or 3% of your total savings or investments into this one stock because it's a small stock. It's a small company. It's a relatively new company. It's growing really fast. And I own one of their mattresses, which is why I bought the stock. I'm doing the Peter Lynch thing. Great product. I mean, if you're looking for a mattress, I highly recommend you try one of the purple mattresses. And they're not a sponsor, by the way. Actually, I should call them, find out who they are, who their media buyer is. But anyway, because I love the mattress. I mean, it's awesome. It's got this thing in it called Purple Grid. And what I really like about it are the guys that founded this. They're all some sort of engineers. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was the materials and that kind of thing. Anyway, they came up with this. They've been working their entire lives. They're older. They decided to launch this company, and it's doing very well. And I'm looking at these are the things that like Peter Lynch or Warren Buffett might look for. You see a company's got a good product. They've got pretty decent profit margins. The industry itself has pretty decent profit margins. This stock's actually been running now for a little bit, but they make a product that is pretty profitable, and the growth year over year is 40%. So when you can grow your revenues by 40% in this environment, that's pretty awesome. Okay. So this has nothing to do with the financial statements. This is just, well, it is financial, actually. It's the growth in revenues. So growth is pretty large. But here's one of the things that these guys have that, say, Tempur-Pedic doesn't have. They have a product I think is completely in line with, and the pricing is very competitive with some of the others. I think it's got an improvement in design. I think they're actually cooler than a memory foam mattress. Actually, I know they're cooler than those are. But what these guys have that I haven't heard anybody talking about, I haven't read this in an analyst report anywhere, that the other mattress companies don't have, is that they're using their Purple Grid in pillows and seat cushions. And I know that those things are not that expensive. They're silicone like rubber something. They're probably a proprietary formula, but it's super soft. And those other mattress companies don't have those things, and they're certainly not selling them for $200. The profitability on that is probably higher than the mattress itself. And they've got a they have sheets made specifically for these mattresses, because if you put a regular sheet on it, a cotton sheet doesn't stretch, and that reduces the amount of comfort actually on the mattress. It doesn't move like it should. So they have got their own sheet sets, and I'm looking at the prices on those, and I'm just looking at the margins going cha-ching. The margins on that are astronomical. And I'm telling you, if you buy one of the mattresses, you're going to want to buy some of that stuff too. So they're not just a mattress company. And actually, even on their website, they stopped describing themselves as that. I forgot what phrase they used. So anyway, symbol is PRPL. I have to tell you, I already own shares, so full disclosure here. And if it goes down, I'm going down with it. So I would never put my life savings in something like that. Don't do that. Bad idea. Yeah, this is a very young company. They haven't been around for very long. So, but if you've got an investment club, like the one I'll be going to, hey, Adam, I got your phone call. I'll be giving you a call back. We're going to try to get some people together. This is the old-fashioned investing that's kind of fun. We're looking at the sales growth, what kind of profit margins we think they might have, what kind of products the company actually makes, who their competitors are. The two things that are most important are sales and profit margins. That's the most important in any business that you're looking at on a long-term value proposition. Okay, so just thought I would mention that because I know there are several investment clubs that listen to this show, and I think that's a pretty decent one. Again, I already own it. I don't own a lot of it. But I think it's a good exercise in stock picking. For most people that have never done this or don't have any interest in it, if you don't have a lot of interest in stocks, don't invest in them. Invest in funds. If you don't have a lot of interest in stocks, because I'm going to tell you, it's going to try your patience. Kind of like golf, Golf, you're going to make a big investment, just a set of clubs. A lot of money. Then you got to get the shoes, and you got to get the bag, and then you should take lessons. In fact, I've got a good friend out there. He keeps telling me, don't buy new equipment, invest your money in lessons. You need to learn. That's kind of like the stock market. Every once in a while, you'll just hit a drive super far, super straight. It gives you that little boost in morale that you need to keep going. That's like your stocks. Every once in a while, you'll pick a winner. It'll push your portfolio up there, make you feel really good, and will give you that encouragement to keep going through all those losers. You're always going to have losers, by the way. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've seen people go through their entire careers on 4 or 5, one stock, and they never lost money because they never sold it until they do. Ask anybody that's worked at GE. Wow, that's a tough one. By the way, I've got at least 25 clients who used to work there. So yes, no, I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just talking about the company. I used to hear about it all the time. It can't go wrong. I'm hearing about that now today from Sherwin-Williams. And Sherwin-Williams probably is a better bet than GE was back in the day because paint is a lot easier to understand. General Electric made light bulbs, which don't even exist anymore because they all went over to LED. And they make jet engines. They make locomotive engines. They make MRI machines. What do those have to do with each other? Those are completely different industries, all owned by the same company. So just one of those industries has to take a turn for the worse to hit their bottom line, and that's actually what's been happening to those guys. Peter Lynch called that diversification. Basically, what he meant was some companies would in an effort just to grow their business, they got into businesses that they had no business in. And that's one of the difference between Sherwin-Williams does mostly paint and paint-related stuff. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons that they've been so successful, because they stuck to their knitting or stuff that was close to that. And actually, they built their own distribution centers. That was genius. I don't know who came up with that idea. Those little Sherwin-Williams stores, awesome. And the profit margins on that, they get to keep the margin that they would normally give to Home Depot or Lowe's or whoever their partner, Walmart. And you see how small those stores are? They don't have to, they're probably paying less per square foot there than they are at Walmart. Or, they have to give up more of a percentage. That was genius. And they bought a company not too long ago, did exceptionally well. The let's see, price to sales ratio is only 3 on it now. That's not bad. That's it was a lot worse at one point in time where it was more overvalued. Personally, I'd like to see it a little bit lower than it is today. If they that type of growth rate, they better keep those profit margins up there, because if they don't, you're going to see have another GE on your head. Not quite though, because like I said, GE got into so many businesses that I just really didn't understand why they were doing that, other than the fact that they had to try to grow their top line, their sales growth, so they would buy other businesses. They would invest in other businesses when they felt like they were one of the dominant players in all the industries that they were in today. And I'll tell you, the industries that they picked, holy cow, that's rough. That's what's cool about Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble gets into another business. It's like, Febreze, we're going to have a disinfectant. Those are only $5 a can or whatever they are. I don't know what they are, but but it's not $500 million for a whole facility for an MRI machine. Or it's not a jet engine. You know how much money a jet engine costs? See that? Nobody told them about that. But for a while, that it actually worked quite well. In fact, for a long time, they were in the financial services business. That did very well for them for years and years and years, until it didn't. But anyway, I hear the music. That means I got to take a break for another week. Listen to Bill Bullington. I'm here on 1420 every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. You can also find me on 955 The Fish's podcast. Have a good week, everybody. Good luck and good investing.
You just caught another edition of the Bullington Capital Report, broadcasting every Saturday at 11 a.m. on AM 1420, The Answer. If you have a question and you'd like to speak to Bill personally, you can call him at 330-664-0700. That's 330-664-0700. Or online at bullingtoncapital.com. That's bullingtoncapital.com.
The preceding program has been paid for by Bullington Capital Management, LLC.